In the fall of 1963, a woman named Verna Mae Combs fed 7 people on $3.40 a week. She lived in Harlan County, Kentucky, 6 miles up a holler with no paved road. She did not consider herself poor. She considered herself resourceful. The garden gave beans and corn. The creek gave catfish. The ridge line gave squirrel on good mornings. And her kitchen gave the rest. The suppers she made had names that did not appear in any magazine. They were not on any restaurant menu. They existed only in mountain kitchens, passed from mother to daughter, in the language of survival and pride. Before we count them down, number 9 on our list contains more vitamin C than an orange, and nobody knows it. Number 4 is a dish that does not exist on any recipe card because it was never written down. And number 1 is the supper coalfield wives made on nights their husbands did not come home from the shaft. A meal that was quietly, stubbornly, a form of prayer. Here is what nobody talks about. In the 1960s, the federal government looked at Appalachian poverty and decided the answer was modernization. Move the families out. Bring in commodity cheese and canned goods. The wild food knowledge, the ramps, the poke, the leather breeches hung from the rafters. They called that backwardness. They spent real money trying to replace it. What they did not understand was that Verna Mae was not feeding her family in spite of those ways. She was feeding them because of them. If this sounds like a story worth remembering, subscribe before we start. New videos every week about the food history they did not teach in school. Let's count down from 12 to 1. Number 12, corn dodgers. Before cornbread was cornbread, it was a corn dodger, a small, dense, hand-shaped patty of cornmeal, salt, and hot water fried in cast iron until the outside cracked. No eggs, no milk, no baking powder. Verna Mae made them most mornings, 2 per person, alongside chicory-stretched coffee. In the evenings, corn dodgers became the plate itself. You ate them with a cup of pot liquor, the broth left from boiling greens, dragging the dodger through the liquid and calling that supper. It filled you. It cost almost nothing. By the 1960s in eastern Kentucky, the corn dodger was the quiet anchor of 100 households. Today, it is nearly gone. Cornbread won. The dodger lost. That is not progress. That is just marketing. Number 11, kilt lettuce. You have had a salad. You have not had kilt lettuce. The difference is significant enough that they almost should not share a word. Leaf lettuce, wild or garden, whatever was ready, gets hot bacon grease poured directly over it from the pan. Not warm, hot. The grease hits the leaves. They shrink and go glossy. You splash on vinegar and salt, and you eat immediately. Kilt is a mountain dialect word meaning killed, because the heat kills the raw bitterness. What is left is warm, silky, and sharp. In April, when the first tender leaves came in, there was nothing better. Women served kilt lettuce whenever they had greens ready and a pan that had just fried something else. It cost nothing extra and used what would have been thrown away. I cannot figure out why anyone stopped making it. Number 10, hominy and fatback. Hominy is dried corn treated with ash water in a process called nixtamalization, a word food scientists now use with great enthusiasm, as if they invented it. Indigenous people of the Americas invented it centuries ago. In Harlan County, hominy went into a pot with a piece of fatback, salt-cured pork belly, smoky and tough, and simmered 1 hour until the corn went tender and the fat rendered into the broth. That was supper. Fatback cost 15 cents a pound. A can of hominy cost a dime. Together they fed 4 people with leftovers for lunch. I want to pause here. Nutritionists from the 1960s wrote reports calling Appalachian diets deficient and backward. Those same reports completely ignored that hominy and beans form a complete protein, and that the wild greens were extraordinarily nutrient-dense. The women doing this cooking knew things about feeding people that no government nutritionist had any business dismissing. It still makes me a little angry. Number 9. Ramps and scrambled eggs. Every April, for about 3 weeks, the mountains of Appalachia smell like garlic and onion, and something wilder than both. That's ramp season. Ramps are wild leeks. They grow in the shaded coves of the Appalachian Range, from Georgia to Canada, with broad, flat leaves and small white bulbs, pungent enough to make garlic seem polite. They contain significant amounts of vitamin C, vitamin A, and selenium. Mountain people understood this without lab confirmation. Verna Mae went to the ramp patch in April the way others go to the grocery store. She dug them, brought home a basket, fried them in lard, and scrambled eggs into the pan. Everything tasted like ramp. You tasted like ramp for 3 days. This was not considered a problem. It was proof you had eaten well. Ramps are having a small comeback in restaurants where they charge $18 for a small plate. Somewhere, Verna Mae is laughing. Number 8. Leather breeches. Here's how you preserve green beans without a refrigerator or electricity. You string them. You thread each whole pod onto a long needle until you have a garland several feet long. Then you hang those garlands from the rafters through August and September. By November, they are wizened and dark, leathery and brittle, and they look like nothing you'd want to eat. But you put them in a pot with a ham hock and simmer for 2 or 3 hours, and something happens. They reconstitute. They develop a depth that fresh beans never reach, concentrated smoky, intensely earthy. Mountain families called them leather breeches. They hung in every farmhouse kitchen, a slow-drying calendar of summer's abundance carried into winter, one pot at a time. Before we get to number 7, if you have a grandparent or great-aunt who still remembers cooking like this, call them this week. Not to ask for recipes, just to ask what supper smelled like. You'll get a recipe anyway, and you'll get something better than that too. And if this is your first time on this channel, this is what we do here. Hit subscribe. Number 7. Poke Salad. The song calls it Poke Salad Annie. In the mountains, it was poke salad, the Old English word for a cooked green. Pokeweed grows wild across the south and into Appalachia. It is a large, dramatic plant with dark purple berries in late summer. It is also mildly toxic raw, but the young spring shoots, properly cooked, are edible, nutritious, and were a crucial early spring green for families who had eaten nothing fresh since October. You boil poke shoots twice, pouring off the first water to remove bitterness and reduce the toxins. Then you fry the parboiled greens in bacon grease with onion and eat them with cornbread and pot liquor. Women in Harlan County knew exactly how to handle pokeweed safely, taught by their mothers, who were taught by theirs. The knowledge was precise. When outside agencies warned that mountain people were eating poisonous plants, the mountain people said, "We know what we are doing." They were right. Number 6. Half-moon fried pies. A circle of biscuit dough folded over a spoonful of dried apple or peach filling, cooked down with sugar and cinnamon, crimped shut at the edge, then fried in hot lard until the outside blisters gold. That's a half-moon fried pie. They fit in a pocket. Coal miners carried them in lunch buckets. Children took them to school, wrapped in cloth. They were the portable sweetness of a kitchen that had no reliable oven, made from fruit dried on the porch in August for exactly this purpose. The summer's excess became the winter's small joy. You can make one with canned apple filling and canned biscuit dough in 12 minutes. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand what it tasted like to have something sweet and warm when sweet and warm things were rare. Number 5. Catfish muddle. Down in the river bottoms and creek-fed valleys, catfish kept families fed. Not restaurant catfish, creek catfish, channel cats and flatheads pulled from water the community had fished for generations. Catfish muddle is a thick stew. You cut the catfish into sections, put them in a pot with water, potatoes, onion, and whatever else was on hand, canned tomatoes, corn in summer, dried beans in winter. Season with salt and pepper. Simmer until the fish falls from the bone and the potatoes go soft. Eat with cornbread. Muddle means a mixture, a confusion of good things. There was nothing confused about it. It was the simplest form of abundance. You caught something, added what you had, and fed your people. Number 4, chow chow on pinto beans. This dish has no recipe because it was never one dish. It was an equation. Beans plus chow chow equals supper. Pinto beans, cooked all day with a ham hock until they turned creamy and thick, were the base. Chow chow, a relish of chopped green tomatoes, cabbage, peppers, and onion, pickled in vinegar, went on top. The sour brightness cut through the starchy richness of the pot. Every family's chow chow was different. Some liked it hot, some liked it sweet. The jar on the table was a signature as individual as a name. You could eat at 3 houses on the same road in Harlan County and eat 3 entirely different suppers using the exact same 2 ingredients. I have not found chow chow on beans in a single 1960s cookbook. It exists only in memory and in the jars that grandmothers still put up every September if you are lucky enough to know one who does. Number 3, squirrel and dumplings. I know, but hear me out. Squirrel meat is lean, mild, faintly nutty, closer to rabbit than to anything you are imagining. In eastern Kentucky, it was hunted in fall when gray squirrels were fattening on acorns, and it was the cheapest protein available to a family with a rifle and an early morning. You cut the squirrel into pieces, brown them, simmer them in water with onion and celery until the meat falls from the bone. Then you drop dumpling dough, flour, salt, lard, buttermilk, torn into rough pieces, into the broth. The dumplings puff and soften as they cook. The whole pot becomes dense and savory and filling in the way only long-cooked things are. I tried squirrel for the first time researching this channel, and I understand now why it fed Appalachia for 200 years. What looks like poverty from the outside looked like a perfectly good Tuesday from the inside. Number 2, soup bean supper. If one dish represents Mountain Appalachia more completely than any other, it is this. Not because it is complicated, because it is not. Pinto beans cooked all day with a small piece of salt pork and water, and nothing else. By evening, the beans are dissolving into the broth, thick and slightly starchy, carrying deep smoke from the cured pork. You ladle it into a bowl. You put cornbread alongside. You slice a raw onion and set it on the table. That is soup bean supper. Families in Harlan County ate this 2 or 3 nights a week. People who grew up on it left the mountains and spent the rest of their lives trying to replicate it in city kitchens with different water and different pork and never quite getting it right. Because soup beans taste like home, and home is a flavor that does not transfer. Number 1, stack cake. In the coalfields of eastern Kentucky, when a family had a celebration or just a hard week that needed marking, the neighbors brought layers. Stack cake is not made by one person. A woman baked 1 layer, thin, ginger-spiced molasses cookies, flat as a pancake. Her neighbor brought another, and another. 6 layers, 8 layers, sometimes 10, each one carried from a different house. The filling was dried apple butter, spiced and sweet, spread between every layer. The cake sat overnight, and as it rested, the moisture from the filling softened the hard cookies into something tender and dark and complex. No one family had enough sugar and molasses and time to build a stack cake alone, so the community built it together, layer by layer. And when it was stacked and standing, it was a record of who showed up. Verna Mae made her layer and carried it to a neighbor's house in 1963. That layer sat in the stack between her neighbor's layer and the next woman's layer. holding them all together. That is not just dessert. That is a document of a community that cared for each other in the only currency they reliably had: time and knowledge and showing up. That is number one. Not because it was the cheapest, not because it was most nutritious, because it required other people, and it tasted better for that. If you want to see any of these made on screen, tell me in the comments which one you want first: the corn dodgers, the leather breeches, or the stack cake built the old way. And if your family made any of these suppers, I want to hear about it. What was on your grandmother's table? What did she call it? What did it smell like? Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with someone who grew up eating this food, or someone who should know it existed. Verna Mae fed 7 people on $3.40 a week. She did not think of it as sacrifice. She thought of it as knowing what she was doing. And she was right.